me just check and see what we're really starting with. Here we go. Okay. I borrowed these from my daughter. I was like, I'm done with high heels, so.
They're cute.
Like, seriously, usually when I present like this, I just take my shoes off. Do you guys even mind if I just walk around with no shoes on? I think tomorrow I might start with high heels and just take my shoes off. So. All right. You know, I feel better. Let me tell you why I feel better. Because like 4,400 people signed up to come. And then we thought it's free, so we'll probably get about 3,000 that show up. And so today it was so empty in the back because I told them to put up like 3,500 chairs, and they put up 4,500. And so I was like, and Patrick's like, don't worry, like they put up like way more chairs. I'm like, oh, that makes me feel better then. Like it is full, it just doesn't look it. Anyway, so let's start with this. I'm going to talk to you about some supplies. Now, I'm gonna like say it in two different ways. Number one, you don't need any tools to teach a class. You do know that, right? We taught classes without tools. We became presidentials without tools. There's a lot of people that have taught classes and been presidentials without tools. You don't need tools to share the message of essential oils. We all know that. When I'm in countries like the Ukraine, or actually I haven't been to that, I'm hopefully go soon, but like in Slovakia, in places where they don't make very much money at all, I literally say don't use any tools, or I show them how to teach a class with almost no money, because it's really necessary. Here in the US, there are a few tools that I think are handy, they're helpful. So for instance, if I'm teaching a class in Slovakia, I don't have tear sheets, I don't have the handouts. In fact, my leaders, they take the things that they need and they I can't even think of the word. You put it in a machine, it makes it hard. Laminate, thank you. So they like laminate their stuff so they can just pass it out and use it again and again and again, which I kind of think is genius, right? But the tools that I am going to recommend for here in the US, and when I come and teach classes here, I do use them, is number one, doTERRA did a beautiful class handout. It's this class and it's beautiful. I don't know if you've seen it in the back. Don't go up and buy it right now because I need you to be here for the class, right? It's a beautiful, simple class handout. What I should say is Dana Moore did this class handout. Where's Dana? Where is she? Dana, where are you? Are you here somewhere? She is late. No, she's not late. Dana actually did this, and then doTERRA took it, adjusted some things, and made it beautiful. So it's Dana and Jenna's. And where's Jenna? Jenna, are you here? Yay! So really, it's Dana and Jenna Cross's work. It's beautiful. You'll really love it. There's a tear sheet, and then there's a kit form, and doTERRA keychains. These are the three things that doTERRA actually brought up that I'm recommending. Number one, you're going to need the keychains to book classes. We're going to talk about that, okay? It's really helpful to book classes with keychains. Number two, you're going to need the kit form. The kit's just changed, and this form is beautiful. Goes with the other one. And then for those of you that like to teach off of tear sheets, or you're new people that are teaching, it's so easy for them to have it there. And so these are the three items. Does this make sense? Let's go back to the slide before really quick. And they have it here in the back. You've seen it in the back. They have it here to sell in the back. And can I just give a little shout out to Jenna and to Dana? So let me tell you what they did actually. For free, they looked at the class, they made it beautiful, they paid for, a lot of the work that was done, and then just, instead of selling it themselves, which they could have as presidentials, they just gave it to all of you for free. And you have it online, and you can find it on the tool section. I don't know if it's there yet, but it will be by the end of the week. You can find it on the tool section of Daily Mentor Calls, and then you can purchase it, because sometimes it's easier to just purchase a packet from doTERRA than to print it out yourself, so you have both options. Does that make sense? So thank you, Dana, thank you, Jenna, you guys did a fabulous job. I'm gonna go back really quick. these are the things that I recommend having at a class, okay? Peppermint, wild orange, deep blue, on guard. You can have more oils if you want. You don't have to have all the oils. The reason why you don't come with your huge essential every oil kit is because then everybody that sees that feels that they have to have that if they do it to do a class themselves. All right, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. 10 to 15 sample vials. You're going to see why. These samples are filled with any kind of oil, but there's some oils that we recommend. You can do the class handouts, and you have to have an enrollment form. So either you have to print one off on the back office, black and white, right? Or you can purchase one that's in the packet. Pens, 8 little keychains for the 8 people that are coming to your class. Now, 8 to 10 essential life books. I recommend the smaller ones that are like, that have 3-ring binder, right? No, spiral. Because they're not as heavy, they're cheaper. If you can get the big ones, it's incredible. For some of the countries that don't have them, I don't know, if someone's here from Sweden, I'm not sure if you guys have them there. I know in Slovakia they don't. Then you can use another one. I'll tell you why I recommend this book in just a minute. And then some light refreshments. Now, before we move on to that, I'm kind of skipping ahead just a little bit. I'm gonna go actually just back to here and just talk about the intro class for just a minute. One of the biggest problems with our classes, I think, is that we honestly think in our minds that if we present perfectly, if we give more detail, if we vomit constant information at people, right, then they'll sign up more. This is actually totally opposite. In fact, how many classes have you gone to where you've gone and the presenter was incredible, like eloquent, beautiful, they knew everything, and you left that class thinking, there is no way I could do that. I don't even have time for that, right? I remember the first class I heard about essential oils, they were talking gas chromatograph, mass spectrometry. I didn't even know these words, right? And I thought to myself, I don't even have the time to do my dishes at home, let alone memorize all this stuff. Like, it was overwhelming to me. So, the more simple the class, the more duplicatable, the more your team will participate in doing classes, and actually the faster your team will grow. I'm going to give you an example, a story. The first 3 months of the business, I met a man who had been in network marketing for about 15 years. And over those 15 years, he made $20 million in network marketing. At the time, I thought that was good. So, that was a joke, nobody got it. Anyway. By the end of the week, you will catch my jokes, I promise. So and this was the biggest fish I'd ever sat down with. Like, we had this one-on-one, and so I brought my spiel, right? And I came to the table and I brought my spiel. I did the whole thing. I thought I did fantastic. At the very end, he looks at me and this is what he says. He says, Allyse, you will never be big in this industry. You'll never be big in this industry. And I was shocked. Like, I had no idea why he had said that. I was shocked. And so I knew he wasn't going to sign up with me. Like, that was already like made very clear. So I said to him, can I just, obviously I have not impressed you, but can I ask you just a question? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, why did you make that last comment? Why did you say that? What offended you so much that you would make that comment? And this is what he said. He said to me, if you can't sit at a table and teach at a 5th grade level, and everyone around the table looks at you and says, she gets paid that much for doing that? Oh, I could totally do that. You will never duplicate. Ever. And he said, all of that you told me, that is not duplicatable. And I just listened to him, and he looked at me and he goes, duplication means this. It means that you can tell somebody something once, and they can get on the phone and tell the person on the other side of the city that same thing once. And they can get on the phone and tell somebody on the other side of the world that same thing once, and it duplicates. And that is the business that we're in. And then he left. He never signed up with me. I never talked to him really again. And I went home and this haunted me. Like, I went home and I talked to Patrick and I'm like, Patrick, like at the time, we didn't have an A to Z guide. Everyone was just writing things down. We did have the Modern Essentials book and our classes were really elaborate, right? So I went to Patrick and I told him, and I just thought about this over and over. And I said, Patrick was the first one that put the very first A to Z guide together. Thank you so much. Yeah, thanks. And it took him 3 months, and he put it together, and we came up with a new motto. This was our logo. It was, if you want to be an essential oil expert, you only have to know the alphabet. And if you don't know that, we have a little song we can teach you after. You might really like it. All you have to do is know the alphabet to be an essential oil expert. That was it. And we tried to keep things so simple, right? And then we sat down with that tear sheet that Dave Miller said that was going to be so cool and that we should be using, and we had to decide what to put in this class, this essential oil class. And so, oh, by the way, that same guy that 10 years ago told me I'd never be big in the industry, he called me back 9 months ago. He messaged me on social media, and I got back in touch with him. And he said to me this, he goes, Allyse, the biggest mistake that I've made in my career is not running with you. And then he said, do you still have time for me? I didn't sign him up. He's not in my category. He's not a girl, he's not, you know what I mean? He's over the age, we're done, right? I really didn't. I'm just like, I didn't tell him that, but I just didn't call him back. Do some of you want his number? Anyway, so I read a book. I read a book called The Presentation Secrets of Steve Jobs. Do you guys still know who Steve Jobs is? Okay, good. When I'm in Europe, seriously, some people don't. And I'm like, let me tell you who he is. So, do you know who he is? Yes. Great, okay. Steve Jobs, the reason why he was so incredible, in fact, many people thought he was the #1 presenter, business presenter. I'm going to tell you why. He could take incredibly hard material, he could have talked about 1,000 things with the iPhone. But what he did is he always chose 3. Just 3 things. The only 3 things he felt like people needed to know. Was any of you around when he talked about the iPhone, when the iPhone first came out? Okay, I wasn't at that meeting, but I heard about it, and this is how it went, okay? My daughter wasn't. She's like, what is that? What is Steve Jobs? You know who Steve Jobs is. So everyone was at this meeting, and he was introducing a new gadget, brand new gadget, and he comes out and he says this. He goes, this new gadget does 3 incredible things. And he says, number 1, it's an MP3 player. Who's old enough to remember what those are in your pocket, right? You had your MP3 players in your pocket. That's how you heard music, right? It's an MP3 player. And everyone's like, oh, that's awesome, a new MP3 player. And then he said, number 2, it's a computer. And they're like, oh my goodness, an MP3 player and a computer together. This is incredible. And then he said, and number 3, it's a phone. This is not 3 gadgets. It's all in one. It's the same gadget. And people went crazy, right? He's like, an MP3 player, a computer, and a phone, all in one. And then, did anyone here ever use a stylus on their phone? Do you guys remember those? And they were kind of a pain because you would like drop them, lose them, you had to use a stylus, right? And he said, and we've developed the best stylus that was ever created. Your finger. And the crowd went wild. They're like, oh, you're kidding, right? This was his iPhone launch. It was incredible. An MP3 player, a computer, a phone, all in one. You could use your finger. How many things could he have talked about when he launched the iPhone? He knew a lot of information, did he not? Could he have wowed us on stage with how smart he was? Could he have totally gone over our heads so we leave thinking, wow, he's a really smart guy and this must be incredible. He knew something that most people don't know, and that is this. Most people only hold on to 3 parts of three types of information, right? Or three things. And he said, all I want them to do is go home to their spouse, and when their spouse says, well, tell me what's coming out. All I want them to say is, it's an MP3 player, a computer, and a phone all in one, and you use your fingers to stylus. That's it. And that's enough. So, this is how he presented, and the book is incredible, but I'm going to take the time to read it because I'm just going to tell you the nuggets right now. Because I'd rather you take the time to actually do classes. So, he also did this, he did what's called bookmarking. I'm going to tell you what it looks like, and this is how he presented. He would start and he would say, there are three cool things about the iPhone. Let me tell you about the first cool thing. And he would talk about it. Talk, and then he'd go, that was the first cool thing. And then he'd say, the second cool thing about the iPhone is this. And let me tell you about it. He'd talk, and then he'd say, that was the second cool thing. The third cool thing about the iPhone, and he'd talk, and then he'd say, that was the third cool thing. Who knows all three cool things about the iPhone? And adults would raise their hand all the time, like, it's this and this and this, right? Now, elementary school teachers know this, they do this, they teach this. This is the best way that kids learn. You prepare what they're going to hear, you tell them, and then you remind them. Well, guess what? Adults learn this way too. It's effective, and it's fun, and it's interactive. And so after I read this book, we decided that we would use the exact same thing with an essential oil class, just like Steve Jobs. There's a lot we could talk about when it comes to essential oils, is there not? You could overwhelm your people in a class. I think, who in here is in the medical industry? Raise your hand. You will have the hardest time with this, because you know so much. It's so hard for you to just shut your mouth, right? You just know so much. You've gone to school for so long, right? So when someone comes up to you and asks you a question, it just like comes out, and then you go on, and it's really hard. It's super, super hard. I was the very best at this business my first 3 months. Hands down, no questions asked. I fight with it now because I know too much. I was the very best at duplication my first 3 months. I hardly knew anything. I just knew a few things, and I knew how to get people to do the things that I did. Does this make sense? People would come up to me, ask me all the time, what do you do for this or this? I'm like, I have no idea, let's look it up in the book. That's all I'd say. I had no idea about the oils. I'm like, I don't know. First of all, how did you even get like fossils in your ear? What? Like calcium deposits? Let's look it up. That's all I'd say. So, no one called me and asked me, do you know this, do you know that? Because what do you think that they would get from me? I have no idea. Let's look it up. So they would just look it up themselves. I never got product users that called me. They knew I didn't know. It was awesome. It was a beautiful thing, right? It was simple, it was duplicatable. Now, I know way too much. I have to stop myself. I have to shut my mouth in classes because I give too much information. All you need to do is just keep it simple and interactive, and it duplicates much better. Your goal is that when someone goes to your class, they love it, they have fun, and they will because the classes are fun. But they walk out and they say, really? It's that easy doing a class? Oh, I can totally do that. That is your goal. And if you stand in front of a group and you wow them with your expertise and give as much information as you possibly can, you have just killed half of your class wanting to host a class themselves. Do you understand this? There is a time for your knowledge, and that comes at home. No, I'm just kidding. No, there's a time. Where do we get to learn? Where do we get to talk like that? Continuing education, at convention. You can talk like that a little bit more at wellness consults, but not at your essential oil one-on-one class, not at the intro class. So, Melina Harrison. Melina, oh, she's not here. She couldn't be here. She's one of our presidential diamonds. Who loves Melina Harrison in here? She's awesome. So Melina was in Vegas, and she had a team in Vegas. I like to call her team back then. She had an oil club. Some of you run oil clubs too. And it wasn't growing. She'd been doing a lot. She was a silver, but she ran this oil club. Let me tell you what an oil club looks like. She was so phenomenal. She was such a good presenter. She would literally, for like 8 to 10 hours a week, she would come up with the most amazing presentation ever. It was incredible. And it was like essential oils with pets, essential oils in the bedroom, essential oils when we went to school, essential oils when when you're biking in the Alps, whatever. She had it, right? They were incredible, and so people would show up to these classes and they'd love to listen to her, right? But nobody was duplicating. She was the only one teaching. And the cool thing about an essential oil club is that you feel really smart. But the bad thing is, it doesn't pay well. Right? So I remember she called me up and she said, Allyse, I'm really frustrated. And things aren't going well. I'm like, well, that's because you're running an essential oil club, Melina. That's how they go. She's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, Melina, nobody can be you. I mean, I just want to give you an idea. This was Melina. This was this girl. I would give a presentation, and after my presentation, she would send me an email, and she'd be like, let me just clarify and correct the mistakes that you made on stage. You said this and this and this, and that's incorrect, and you quoted this, and it's actually, let me send you the real quote. I mean, this was her. She was so detailed, right? And I would just send back, thanks, Melina. And I said, Melina, if you keep doing this, people are going to want to come and hear you talk, but they're not going to do it themselves, and you're never going to grow a massive team. So she changed, and she had the same class every week, which was really hard for Melina because it was boring for her. How many of you get bored doing the same class? Well, welcome, my friends, to how we get paid. Okay? Eric Larson, our master distributor, this is like in the early days when he very, very first joined the company. He came to me and he said, hey, Allyse, I'm going to go check out Nathan Ricks, who's one of the biggest new skin distributors, and he's presenting. I'm going to go listen to one of his presentations. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And he said, I just want to get some tips of how I can make my presentations better. So he went to Nathan Ricks' presentation. This guy makes about $300,000-$400,000 a month, so pretty good, right? And he went to his presentation and came back, and I said, so Eric, how was it? And he's like, Allyse, I didn't learn anything. It's like 17 years ago, when they worked together at New Skin, 17 years ago, I went to one of Nathan Rick's presentations, and he gives the exact same presentation with the same jokes. And he said, I really didn't learn anything. And I looked at Eric and I said, oh no, Eric, you learned something really important today. You learned that the #1 distributor in New Skin keeps the same material for 17 years in a row. For 17 years. We beat the same drum. If you get bored of your essential oil class, guess what? Remember what it was like the first time you came to a class and breathed in peppermint for the first time. It's exciting for them. Remember that. You can get creative with other things, but not with this class. And so Melina changed. She got really tight. She started teaching the same class, got really honed in, and now she's president. She's like double Letman. She's over presidential. She did fantastic, right? Yeah, she did great. Thank you for the one person that really likes Melina. So, just kidding. So my question to you is this. When your downline or leaders listen to you, and you're constantly giving different classes, one week it's this, the next week is this, then we change it to this, how do they know what to memorize? How do they know what to duplicate? They don't. So usually they just shut down and do nothing. Your class should be the same class every single time. Every time. And you get excellent at it. You get excellent at this class. Are we clear? Now, As we go through this class, I do not want you to turn your brains off because, let me tell you this, it will be the simplest class you've ever heard. But for most of you in the audience right now, simplicity is the hardest thing for you. To get simple is super, super hard when you know so much, especially when in your minds you truly believe that the more information you give, the more somebody will want. Sometimes it is the case that the more somebody will want to purchase the product, but it's not the case for someone that wants to do the business or host a class. Absolutely. Or teach a class. Absolutely not. I remember I had a girl, and she, right after we had the little tear sheets, right, which is 2 pages, and she was in Idaho. It was the first time she was teaching a class. Idaho? Yeah. Rigby, Idaho. Anyway. So, she's in Idaho, and she was up there. There was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 or 8 people standing or in the class, right? And I was there just to support her. I went up and I taught the class earlier a couple times, and now it was her time to try it. And literally, this was her. She was like, there are three cool things about oils. And she was like looking at like the first cool thing. Oh, okay. No, this is how she was teaching, right? She got through both sides of the paper. Painfully, she got through them, right? Most of the people in the class signed up because we sampled and we followed up correctly, right? And a few people decided that they want to host classes too. I'm sure they were like, dude, if that's all you have to do, I'm in, right? And she said after her first class, she's like, is that it? I'm like, that's it. She's like, that's all there is? Like, I'm like, yeah. And people sign up, right? And people want to do stuff, right? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, that's great. That's it. So, if I could get into your minds and just convince you of this one thing, simplicity is the most duplicatable thing, especially with your intro class. Now, how did we put this class together? Well, we just came up with 3 things like Steve Jobs did. And we thought to ourselves, what 3 things would we want to talk about? At the very beginning, right? Well, not very, very beginning. I didn't sign up, but Tara was already going for a 1.5 years. We thought, okay, they're 100% natural, they're more effective, and they're really affordable. So those were the 3 things that we based everything around. And then 3 ways to use the oils, and then you close the class, okay? Now, it goes like this, and I want you to follow along with me as we go through this class, and it's basically like, here's the first cool thing about essential oils, and we talk about it. We teach them about it, and then you simply say, that was the first cool thing about essential oils. Does anyone know the first cool thing about essential oils? And what do? You actually have little teeny sample vials. And you actually have sample vials at your class, and you literally, if someone says like this, you go, okay, what is it? They go, they're 100% natural. You're like, yeah. And you hand them the sample. You hand them a sample. You guys, they get so excited. Adults love to get free stuff. It's incredible. Like, it's super interactive. In Malaysia, when 300 people there, I'd be like, yeah, what is it? And they'd just say, and I would just huck the oil at them. And they're like, this is awesome. By the end, Malaysians were jumping out of their seat. I'm like, I haven't even asked the question. What are you raising your hand for? They're like, well, I'm just getting ready. I'm like, okay, right? Super easy. This is the second cool thing about essential oils. And then you talk about it. And you say, that was the second cool thing. Who knows the second cool thing? And everyone's like, oh, right? This is the third cool thing about essential oils. And then you talk about it. What was the third cool thing? Everyone raises their hand, you give them a sample. And then if I have a full class of 8, I mean, if you only have 1 person at your class tonight, like, who knows? First, of course, you gotta modify it a little bit, right? And then I like to say, who knows all 3 things? And somebody raise their hand and they say all 3 things. This is how human beings learn. And the cool thing is, if they know they're getting incentives, they turn on their brain. They're like, I have to listen, I have to make sure. And so when they go home, and their spouse says to them, hey, how was the class? What did you learn? What do you think they say? Well, I learned that essential oils are 100% natural. They're more effective than over-the-counter and prescription drugs, and They're really affordable. That is all you want them to know the first class. That and only that. It's enough. Everything else comes later because they're going to forget 90% of it anyway, right? Are you guys with me? Yes. Do we need to change the way that we're teaching? Yes. Some of you know, some of you are like, I'm right on board. Okay, so that's the basics of Steve Jobs. That's the basics of his genius. And so we put this tear sheet together, and over time, that original tear sheet turned into from 1 page to 2, then from 2 pages to 4, and then from 4 pages to 6, and then to 8 pages. Why do we do this? What do you think? Raise your hands. Why do we do this, anybody? There's so many cool things we want to share. We just have to tell everybody everything, right? What else? Why do we do this? Which cool thing is going to resonate? We got to hit every incredible thing. Trying to give as much value as what we think is value. The more we talk, the more, yeah? I'll tell you this. It does not work. It might work to sign up product users. It will not work to duplicate with finding business builders and then wanting to do classes. Are you with me? Yes. So as we go through this class, I want to tell you that turn your brains on to figuring out how you can simplify it and do it just like this. It will be the simplest, easiest class you've ever seen, and the class that will sign up the very most people. Not only that, the class that will get the most people interested in teaching because it's so simple. All right? Are you excited about that? I have to prep this group. They don't know when to be excited, when to not. I'm like, we're excited. No, I'm excited. Okay. The other thing, you're moving me forward. This is so great. The other thing is, I'll tell you what I did with my leaders. I'm going to jump back a little bit. That's why these slides are hard, because then I have to talk in the right order. But I'll tell you what I did. I had all my leaders in the early days come, and I had this, I went to Walmart, and I bought this clear box that snaps down on the sides. And I put everything they needed in the class. It wasn't very many things. And I had them all come, and I'm like, I have a gift for you. And I gave them all this box. And then I said, everyone take out your watches. I want you to count how long it takes me to set up the class. I want you to see, I think I can do it in less than 40 seconds. And they're like, what? I'm like, just get your watches out. Time me. So I had this little box there. They started their watches. I was like, boom, A to Z guides, a couple of oils, pens, everything. I'm like, done. And they're like, 38 seconds. I'm like, that is how quick it is to set up a class. This is the only thing you need in a class. So, are our slides going crazy? So basically, when we go to a class, sometimes, let me show you what happens. Somebody walks into a class,